Do you find yourself needing to be in control of everything? Then this video is for you. Hey guys, it's Beck, and in this video I want to talk to you about something that I'm working through currently, a bit of a live example of something that I am trying to overcome in my own life, which is this need to be in control of everything. And it's something that I recognize that I've had going on in my life for as long as I can remember. And the truth is that the emotional stress and exhaustion that comes from trying to be in control of everything is honestly overbearing, and it's relentless. It just doesn't let up. And if you're watching this video, then perhaps you found yourself in a similar situation and you're wondering what it is that you can do about it. So I want to talk a little bit about fear first, because I think, for me at least, this need to control comes from a fear. It's driven from a fear. And fear can be a good emotion to have. We can have constructive fear, which is if there is an actual threat or danger that's out there. And we can have destructive fear, which is this need to control and this kind of thoughts in our heads that are telling us that everything will not be okay. Now, I've done some research on this and I've been reading about it for myself, and the conclusion that I've come to is that as humans we crave certainty. I can certainly relate to that, which is why I've drawn this conclusion. And I read an article from a psychologist that said that if we find ourselves sometimes obsessively needing to control situations or outcomes or other people, that it oftentimes stems from this deep inner fear of the unknown. And this is where we think about this being a destructive fear, because the truth is that we have much less control over our lives than we think. So the only things that we can really control is ourselves, is our thoughts, our actions, our behaviors. And there are thousands, if not millions, of variables in the world that are just part of being human beings that we cannot control. We can't control the weather, we can't control inflation, we can't control a whole bunch of things. And we certainly cannot control other people, and we can't control the outcomes of many things. So what do? We have to learn to accept this. We have to learn to accept that we actually don't have as much control as we think that we do. And so therefore striving for the control is actually quite futile. And to accept that we are in fact powerless is some kind of paradoxical twist that is quite empowering. So the things, as I said, this is a live example. So the things that I'm leaning into to help me, the actions that I'm taking and that will hopefully help you, are meditation and mindfulness. So I've really been leaning into a lot of quite deep meditations lately, things that are really, I'm hoping, are getting me into the subconscious to try and understand actually where a lot of these things are coming from for me. And sitting with that, sitting with those feelings, thinking about where it is in the body that you feel these things, what's coming up for you. Get curious about what's happening inside your body. And I found the other day I was feeling anxious about something, and I just paused in what I was doing and I took a couple of deep breaths, and I tried to breathe into my heart space and just felt inside my body, and honestly just a couple of breaths and the anxiety that I was feeling just completely dissipated. So I cannot rate meditation and mindfulness enough. I know that it's not for everybody, and I know that some people really struggle with it, but I think the truth is, if you've ever given it a go and then you think that you're not doing a very good job, then actually everybody is feeling like that. Everybody is having those moments where they've sat down to meditate and their mind wanders and it's gone off somewhere else, and you're thinking about the next thing you need to do or this thing that happened the other day. But the practice is just to keep bringing yourself back. The practice is just to keep noticing when your mind has wandered, noticing when those thoughts have come in, and just bring it back into your body, bring it back to your breath. As I said, I found that just really going into my body and trying to feel inside my body where those feelings are. Is it in my solar plexus? Am I feeling a bit of a block? Is it in my heart space? Is it in my throat sometimes? And just really sitting with those feelings and almost kind of describing them to myself and just deeply breathing at the same time. And it can honestly just lift myself just completely out of my head. And when I'm in those situations where I'm feeling particularly overwhelmed because I'm trying to be in control of something, getting out of my head is the best solution for me. And once I'm out of my head, then I can start to ask myself some questions, and I can be non-judgmental. I can think about, try and understand what it is that I'm in control of and where maybe that's come from. Like I said, get curious about it and treat yourself like you would a friend. I know for me that this has been something that, everybody in my life tells me that I'm far too hard on myself and I have far too high expectations on myself and I'm my biggest critic. And something that I've really been leaning into is trying to think about how I would treat my friends and treat myself in the same way. So we can often find that we're way more tolerant of other people and what other people are going through and what they're thinking and what they're feeling when they share these things with us. And when it comes to ourselves, we can be quite critical, quite judgmental, and just like me, sometimes we can be just our own worst critics. And my biggest urge to you when you're doing this, and if you are sitting there and getting curious and asking yourself questions and seeing what comes up, is just be kind to yourself. Just be really, really kind to yourself. I think in these situations, it's so easy to pile on blame and shame. And there's such horrible emotions to feel where we feel that we're at fault, we feel guilty, we feel ashamed for something. It's really debilitating sometimes to feel those emotions. And in these types of situations, especially when you are sitting there feeling like you need to control, and then maybe you realize that it's actually something that has stemmed from something a long time ago, or that it's just been really unhelpful, and sometimes we can just perpetuate this shame and blame, and it gets really uncomfortable. So please be kind to yourself. Whenever you're doing this, please just be kind to yourself. And through the practice of meditation and mindfulness, you can really start to become aware of when your fear and your need to control is destructive and when there is actually elements of control. So you might not know the outcome of the endeavor, and that might be the thing that you're trying to control, but you can keep working hard to pursue it. You can keep putting in the reps to show up and keep trying to change your brain and change your life in all of the same ways instead of giving up. So sometimes there is elements of control that we do have, which is in what we do, it's in our actions, it's in our thoughts. And then there are elements that are out of our control. And these are the things that are destructive. This is the destructive fear. And this is what mindfulness and meditation can really help us to become aware of. And this is something that I'm practicing now. And it's going well. It's going well. So I share all of this with you in the hope that you can try and find a mindfulness and meditation practice and that it will help you in the same ways. Now, the second thing is when these thoughts and these feelings come up, we have to release them. We have to let them go. We have to first become conscious and aware of them, and then we have to let them go. So for me, that is a case of allowing them to be there, sitting with them, being kind to myself. As I said earlier, sometimes I find myself feeling anxious, and all it takes is just a couple of breaths, breathing into that space that feels anxious, and it feels like it releases, it just dissipates. And other times it's a bit heavier. Sometimes I know that I need to cry, and I'm here to say that it's okay to cry. It's okay to let those emotions out in tears. Find a safe space where you can go and have the tissues ready and everything that you need, and just let it out. And what I've found over the last like couple of weeks, especially when I've been crying, and it's been a cry that is so attached to an emotion or something that I'm feeling or a belief that I've had, that I've got curious with why I'm feeling a certain way, and I've continued to go down the levels to find almost kind of the root of where it is and what it is that those thoughts are, and I can hear them, and sometimes they're awful. But when I sit there and I let myself just cry, I let that emotion just come up and I release it, that actually afterwards I find I stop crying and there's a lightness in my body. It does actually feel like I have let something go, that I have actually put down some very heavy weights that I was carrying, and I feel like I can carry on and do whatever it was that I needed to do. So lean into that, lean into whatever it is that comes up. Now, another thing that is potentially helpful when you're thinking about trying to release emotions is positive mantras and visualizations. So, again, back to kind of meditation, a lot of meditation that you'll do or that you'll find out in the world is visualizations, where you can kind of get yourself into that meditative state and you can think about the things, and you can, get curious about what those thoughts are and what those feelings are and where they might come from. And when you are fully aware of them, then you can almost visualize actually releasing them. So I've heard people imagine kind of, pushing them outside of a door and giving them to somebody else and closing the door, or releasing them in balloons, and anything that helps you to actually sort of physically feel like you're freeing yourself from those feelings and thoughts. That can be really helpful. So that's the tip number two, and some things that I'm trying. The third thing is journaling. Now, I have been journaling for a really long time, and I've become quite a pro at this now, I like to think. So for me, it just helps me become more aware. It helps me in a lot of ways because it slows my thoughts down. So if we're in our heads and we're worried about this outcome, this thing that we're trying to control, this person, the situation, whatever it is, sometimes it can just get very chaotic inside our heads, and we can feel overwhelmed, we can feel panic. That fear, that very destructive fear, can be, as I said at the beginning, it's overbearing and it's relentless. But what journaling has done for me is helped me to just slow my thoughts down. I can't write or type as quick as my mind can think, so it just helps me slow down my thoughts. And over time, what I'm finding is that I'm becoming much more aware of what those thoughts are, and actually what perhaps in this scenario is the things that are keeping me with a need to control. And I find that with my journaling, I'm getting a lot better at asking myself the right questions, and sometimes it can just feel very releasing and very freeing when I've sat down and completed a journal entry. As for frequency of journaling, I try to journal every day now, sometimes multiple times a day, and I really recommend that. I really recommend that. And even on the days when you're feeling really good and you haven't had this need to control come up, still sit down with the journal and celebrate that. Celebrate that as a win. I think it's just as important to celebrate the things that are going well in our lives as the things that maybe we're struggling with as well. Sometimes I think we don't celebrate our wins as much as we should. Sometimes we don't actually give credit for what is a win in our lives, when sometimes the things that may seem really insignificant to us, if you were to share that with somebody else, they would think it was huge. And again, it comes back to being a friend to yourself and realizing that, if you went a whole day and you didn't have, the anxious thoughts and the fears and all those destructive feelings, then that's something to celebrate when you get to the end of the day. That's something to, maybe give yourself a boost or some kind of a reward for, at that positive reinforcement. And I think journaling is a really nice way to do that and to get to the end of the day and look back and be grateful for how much you overcame, how much you know, are physically making those changes in your brain, I suppose. Because if you're noticing that you're not feeling you need to control so much, then changes are happening and progress is being made. And that's something worth celebrating. So journal when you're in a good headspace, journal when you're struggling. And honestly, over time, you will become so much more aware of those thoughts and things just will get easier. So the last thing, and I think it kind of ties in, is just gratitude and acceptance. So being grateful for the things that you do have control over and all of the wonderful things that are in your life, and an acceptance for what you don't have control over. And I think through the process of the three things mentioned before, the meditation and releasing those thoughts and feelings in the journaling, the gratitude and the acceptance almost kind of follows as a given. Gratitude is, I mean, you'll hear about gratitude everywhere, just practicing gratitude for the things in your life, but also be grateful for you, be grateful for who you are. Really learn to love that you're going through this. Again, I think, this need for control, I don't think we have to put a negative meaning on it. I think we can, not berate ourselves for the fact that we want to have some certainty in our lives and we want to have, good outcomes and we want to have success and we want to be great. I think that's a noble thing. It's just recognizing that sometimes it's not helpful, and actually caring that much is great, but focus that on ourselves, focus that on the things that we are in control of, which is our own thoughts, our own feelings, and our own actions. So these are my tips. This is what I'm working through now. As I said, this is a live example of something that I'm going through, feeling a lot of need to control an outcome. My biggest fear is wasting time, and that's kind of what I'm trying to contend with at the moment. But all of these things are helping me currently, and I know that continuing to practice them and continuing to lean into them is going to help me leaps and bounds as I move forward on this journey that I'm on. So please go out there, meditate, release those thoughts, journal, practice gratitude and acceptance, and I promise that you too can help release yourself from this need to control. Thank you again for watching.